Settle down, Benji. Let's talk. Okay, granted.
What? Wait. What's up? We got you, season 1, episode 2, The Last Guy in New York. So, yeah. Even though this probably will be a Saturday thing, because it seems like every time I do this show, it's on a Saturday. So, yeah, this will probably be a Saturday exclusive show, because it does take me a long time to do this show. So, yeah, don't know if I'm going to have to do other shows with this, because this takes me a long time. So, yeah. So, this episode starts off with Joe waking up in the morning in his head saying, tonight, Beck, our first date. It just feels right. Right? I'm looking forward to it. I think the obvious hangover aside, you are too. I've read people wrong in the past. One day I'll tell you about Candace. Every red flag I was blind to, how destroyed I was. What can I say? We all have baggage, but I feel like I'm dealing with it the right way. I'm not bothering you. I'm checking in. Joe sees a guy walking, so he pretends to tie his shoes. In his head, Joe's thinking, hanging out with you like this is mainly honing my skills I never knew I needed. But hey, Handy, you can't afford new clothes. Let's just be real. You look perfect in a potato sack. Not a criticism. God no, am I? But you seem distracted. Of course, a new phone. Not sure how you went 24 hours without one as you activate your new friend here. I know you think you're also deactivating your old one, but here's where you're wrong. Your old phone, which I have, is still logged into the cloud, which means that I'm still logged into you. Sci-fi movies are so wrong. Technology is our friend, Beck. Beck calls Ben. Technology is our friend. Beck calls Benji, only to get his voicemail. Beck leaves a voicemail saying, hey, look, you haven't texted back. Just let me know you're okay. That's all I have. This is really annoying, Benji. In his head, Joe says, it is annoying. You're not thinking about us. You're thinking about him. I can't think I took care of that for you, Beck. At MFA. At MFA, probably he said, I want to start out the class this morning. Beck says, sure, and Paul says, good. My last TA was kind of like a little mouse, afraid of public speaking. Beck says, it's my job, and Paul says, wow, you're good at it. So we're still on for tomorrow, drinks, poetry. Beck says, nothing if not up for both of those. As they leave, it's revealed that Joe is watching them in his stalker hat. At the bookstore, Ethan says they came for the big day. Wanted me to move down to the basement. Joe says, no, I'll do it. I just started the whole display. Ethan says, hey, I was thinking of making cookies for hashtag release day. I made a Chantel Bacon has a dope recipe in the Moon Juice cookbook. Cooked cosmically for body, beauty, and confidence. In Joe's head, he says, kill me. But in reality, he says, sounds good, Ethan. And he says, oh yeah, the kid's back. And Joe says, Paco? So he goes upstairs and says, hey, speed reader. Paco says, hi, Joe. Because that's basically all the kid says. He doesn't, except for that sup one time in the last episode. Like, they don't give Paco very good delivery. He just says, hi, Joe. Like, bro. Like, Paco. You gotta come up with a better thing to say. Joe says, what are you reading? And Paco says, this book is about werewolves. The girls in my class won't stop talking about it. It's more about love stuff than werewolf stuff. Joe says, it should be up here. Oh, here it is. And Paco says, Frankenstein? And Joe says, yeah, the monster is really cool and scary, but it's not really about the monster. Paco says, what does that mean? And Joe says, just read it. You can tell me when, you, you tell me. Ethan's got snacks. Hit him up. In the bookstore basement, Benji wakes up and Benji tells Joe to let him out of here now. And Joe says, settle down, Benji. Let's talk. After the logo, Joe, in his head, Joe says, okay, granted. I didn't think far ahead when I swung him with the mallet, but I knew Benji was the worst kind of poison. The kind you know is bad but can't stop taking. So I did what I did to help you, Beck. And now there's an adult human male in the basement of this bookstore. Benji says, somebody let me out. And Joe says, this basement is soundproof. The owner loved to read in the bookstore. Loves to read in peace down here. Benji says, I'm sorry. Benji says, I told you. I don't know who you are. I don't know why I'm here. I swear. And instead, Joe says, confession. I have no idea what to do with him now. Benji says, I'm going to give you my family lawyer. He'll get you paid. Inside, Joe says, of course he thinks I want money. Benji says, you know who my father is? And Joe says, Benjamin J. Ashby II, hedge fund manager. Benji says, we have a jet. We have a jet. We'll send you anywhere in the world. And then inside, Joe says, best case, that's somewhere far away from you, Beck. Worst case is that ends with prison time. Not an option. Joe gives something to Benji. Joe says it's poppy seed bagel, extra swarmier. Benji says I don't eat gluten. Benji tells Joe to go to HLL. He doesn't eat gluten. It's an allergy, okay? This crap is real gluten, dairy, and if I ate a peanut, I could die. Joe says, oh gosh, whatever I can get you. Benji says, like a bear bagel wrapped in chard or something I can do sushi. And Joe laughing says, sushi? And Benji says, my diet is limited. Please, whoever you are not a killer. And his head, Joe says, oh, how I wish this would be less complicated. Benji says, let me out of here. And Joe says, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone that. Inside, Joe says, he doesn't even know my name. I can figure this out. Benji says, I'm claustrophobic. My blood sugar is low. Joe takes out drugs out of his pocket, saying, is this your sugar? I found in your wallet a bunch of 3 bars of Xanax. I don't know, half a sheet of acid. Benji says, whoever it is, it's not even for me. I own a business, and Joe says, that's right, home soda. Benji says, it's arsenal. It's gonna blow up. Joe says, do your investors know you do heroin, or your father? How about your girlfriend? Benji says, I don't have a girlfriend. Oh, that's where I know you from. The cab. Beck's cab. She said your name was Jimmy. No, Joe. Instead, Joe says, well, now that's a complication. Benji says, do not tell me you're doing this because Beck. She's not my girlfriend. You can have her. Take her. And Joe says, careful, Benji. Not winning any points. Benji says, if you knew how, you would not be, if you knew her, you would not be putting me in a cage and ruining your life over Guinevere goddamn Beck. Joe says, if you want out, you'll do what I want. In his apartment, in his head, Joe says, days of being a man who doesn't value those are over. If he can get over the first day hump, Joe sees a text from Beck with her friends where Beck says, she's worried about Benji. In his head, Joe says, that's why it's crucial Benji's out of the picture. Pete checks back saying, please. He's off He's off somewhere crab facing himself. Beck hacks back saying, or maybe he's in some kind of trouble. In his head, Joe says, what we have right now is just a little spark. Every choice is a message. With Candace, I always felt like I was pushing, but now I realize I can't force it. The timing, the spark. So you tell me if you're too distracted back. You decide. Joe emails Beck asking her on a date, and Beck emails back saying, sure, looking forward to it, free at 6. Joe and Beck meet up, and Beck says it was always one of those classy, cheesy diaries with a face with a lock. But I couldn't stop writing. It always felt better having it all down on paper, you know? And I did this little creative writing assignment, and I blew my teacher's mind. She acted like it was come, and now it just feels so easy, so right. This is how our story goes back. Now, if you She acted like it was the first thing she ever read. In his head, Joe says, honestly, a part of me thought this date would never come. And now it feels so easy, so right. This is how our story goes back. Beck says, here I am. And sometimes you just do things on instant because you have to. And sometimes you scramble, you know? Joe says, yeah, I kind of know. Beck said, I totally didn't Google you, but if I did, I might discover you weren't on social media. Joe says, fact, it renders you insanely vulnerable with zero upsides. Joe says, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like real life. Beck says, what about your job? Joe says, bookstore manager or international super spy. Which is it? Beck says, I mean, that's your goal. And Joe says, I know, in a city full of people with big neon sign aspirations, I know I could not, cool. It's big and flashy, but I love books. I want my whole life, I want my life to be about what I actually love. Beck says, yeah, I get that. Beck's new phone vibrates, and Beck says, sorry about that. Just a second. Joe says, okay, go ahead. And Beck answers the phone saying, hey, yeah, I know it's serious, Peach. I'm the one who told you I was worried, okay? I'm sorry, I'm coming. Yes, I'm coming, I'm sorry. I have to go. This is my friend. I have to go. This friend, he just apparently had to go meet with someone who is Joe and never came back. It's worrying. Joe says, we can pick it up some other time if you have to. Beck says, all right, thank you. Joe says, I hope your friend's okay. In his head, Joe says, I thought I had it done. Gotten Benji out of our way. Looks like I have to finish the job. In the bookstore basement, Benji is pacing back and forth. In his head, Joe says, to figure out what to do with the poster boy for white male privilege, I need to understand who he truly is. To do that, I need to know what he cares about. Benji says, this is totally unfair. I knew if I knew you were going to quiz me, I would have put more recent books on my list. Joe says, so bottom line, you've never read On the Road. Benji says, it's possible to read a book without having to read it. In traditional manner, you read about a book. You can read about a book. Joe says, yeah, I get it. You're a fraud. Benji says, give me the book. I'll read it right now, you statistic guy. And anything to get me out of here. In his head, Joe says, I do understand about you now, Beck. You somehow think of this guy all you deserve. So you deserve. Joe says, you're getting a little gray immediately in there. Benji says, yeah, no crap. You stole my stash. Joe says, I thought it wasn't for you. And Benji says, fine. You happy? It's mine. I'm a chipper. I never do it more than 3 days in a row, and I'm quitting. Joe says, okay, only if you're quitting. And Joe gives Benji the drug and his stash. Benji tries to go for the stash, but Joe's like, it does not work. That is nonsense. It does not work that way. There's only one way. So Joe gives Benji some drugs. Benji says thank you. Gives Joe gives Benji a little bit of drugs. Benji says thank you. But Joe says just one more thing. The password for your phone. Joe says it's Leon. In his head, Joe says his phone log is another girl's name. Beck, Jesus Christ. Joe locks Cade. Like, Joe's thinking to himself, like, Beck, you pretend to like this guy. But you pretend that you're all worried about Benji. But if you really knew that he was basically had another girl's number as his password, I don't think you would be in love with him. Like, bro, like, I cannot wait to get to season 2 because I love Love Queen. But Beck, she is just an alright character. Love Queen is where it's at, but still. Benji takes the drugs by sniffing them up his nose. Joe sees all of Benji's texts and his head saying, well, he's been living off Frankly brand life for a guy who marks his health soda. Based on evidence not missing you when you're gone. You don't mean anything to him. Joe goes to the cage and takes a photo of Benji, takes a picture of Benji, takes a picture of a drugged up Benji, and puts a bra next to him to make it look like, yeah, he just slept with a woman. So yeah, so Joe then posts this pic as Benji. So somewhere else, Beck sees this pic saying, I was so worried. Beck sees this pic thinking that Benji posted it, saying that I was so worried. I called his mom. We were about to call the police, and he's hiding some random craft burg in Massachusetts, according to his geolocation. Lynn says, don't say geolocation. You're not a stalker. Pete says, at least we know he's fine, just being the worst. Lynn says, we're going to try that new bar. We're going to go try that new bar right in Soho, and Annika says, you're such a lot. And Beck says, crap, I can't go. I'm sorry. I'm suspended. I'm supposed to have drinks with my thesis advisor. Lynn says, from scale of 1 to 10, how pervy. And Beck says, he won the award for poems that probably has 35 references to Virginia's. I'm not going to say vagina. I'm going to say Virginia because it's better. I'm supposed to be a kid-friendly, sometimes good channel. I'm not saying what the show said. So yeah, Virginia Lips, which is the PG version of what Beck actually said. So Anika says, well, sleeping with your professor is like a grad school rite of passage. One says, isn't Annika like the Wikipedia page for prostitutes? Because I'm not going to say the other word. This is meant to be a kid-friendly channel where this is meant to be a channel where I don't say swear words sometimes. So I'm just going to use, instead of the word using SLUT, I'm going to use the word prostitute because that is way better than saying the other word. Also, I just can't come up with a good word that blurs that other word that she said. Anika says, whatever. I slept with my bio teacher. It was fine. Notable, I passed the class. You keep eyes on that prize. Over up, girl. And Peach says, Beck doesn't want to over up. Beck says, he controls my status as a TA. He could knock me out of my housing. Lynn says, or you could not figure it out and report him. Beck says, I think it only works that way. In the movies. Peach says, whatever, we're seeing you tomorrow at my party. Tomorrow, the anniversary of my parents' divorce. The party I have to distract myself. Beck says, of course, yeah, I'm totally coming to that. In the bookstore basement, Joe is taking pictures of bras and other stuff while Benji asks for more drugs. Of course, Joe's like, no. And he's like, tell me your plan. I'll help you out. Where's she right now? She's partying partying her face off with Lynn and Anika, right? And Joe says, actually, she's about to meet her thesis advisor. I'm glad to hear you take her seriously. Benji says, see, this is why I'm telling you. You see this hard-working writer chick? How could you not? She's not branded the living crap out of herself across the internet. Instead, Joe says, I want you to know, it wasn't about to be late to see you. If I wasn't about to be late to see you, I would beat this guy bloody for the way he talks about you. Benji says, I'm telling you, this is her thing. This is her thing right now. She's got her red lipstick. She's getting ready to work on her Professor hard for an A. Joe says, see you later, Benji. And Benji says, hey, come back. I'm hungry. At the bar, Paul says, there is a directness that is special about you. So, if not to be direct to the bone, cut it. Beck says, that's okay, really, really helpful. And coming from you, it means a lot. He says, a lot of people find direct women irresistible. You should lean on that in your life as well. Beck says, easier said than done. Paul says, Will, you can always practice on me. I'm always safe. You can really have nothing to be nervous about. The world is a great red apple. Joe, yeah. And I like how literally cut, there was a thought, they just show, back to the side to show, oh hey, Joe's also at the same bar. Basically stalking her. But I just love that shot. I'll probably put it into the video. I love that shot of just Beck, and then there's just the shot of Joe, over there, literally watching her. It's a really creepy moment, but it's a really good shot. That shot is amazing. Yeah. In his head, he's saying, Joe's also there in his head saying, you think he writes these lines? I advance like a poem. Beck says, I wish I had your confidence. Paul says, putting your work out there in the world is a service. Beck says, I'll try and remember that. Paul says, I wouldn't tell you if you weren't talented. I'm happy to share all my secrets. So Beck, maybe this time we acknowledge that what there is here. And Paul touches Beck's leg. Yeah. Then she literally freaks out like any woman would do, and then he tries to touch her again. But Beck's like, bro, do not touch me. That's not sexy, it's repulsive. Beck says, I'm sorry, but this is not. And Paul says, you invited me here? And yeah, literally. And Beck says, no, I didn't. Yeah. Of course Paul's gonna do this. Literally. He tries to get with Beck. He touches him. He touches her. She freaks out. And then he tries to blame what he did on. He tries to put the evidence on her. He invited her out. But now that she's rejected him, he's now trying to. Now that she's rejected him and said that, like, really, don't touch me, he's now trying to be like, oh, so this is your fault, Beck. You're the one that invited me out here. So yeah, you're the one that invited me out here. Why would you do that? So yeah, he's trying to take what he did and blame it on her, which is terrible. Yeah, Paul says, yes, you flirt blazingly. You wear clothes so sheer that they can see your nipples. What? Okay, dude, I don't know how you got your position, but if you're going to flirt with your student, you should not get your TA position. Because talking about her nipples like that, bro, that was too much. What do you call that? Beck says that's crazy, and Paul says if you want to stay on the side of the plausible deniability zone, cover your tits, which means nipples. But still, this bro is the worst. No wonder Beck didn't want anything to do with him. And stop the BJ eyes, and write better. I like you, but clearly you're overworked, so it's only right to release you from your TA position. Beck says, don't, but Paul says, get some rest. In his head, Joe says, you're right to be angry. Some things just can't be allowed to be. Something has to be done like someone like him. Beck calls Joe, and Joe sees this and decides to run out of the bar without her looking. And answers her call. Beck says, hey, where are you? I'm in the village and maybe we can finish our talk. Joe says, yeah, I'll be there in 15. Off screen, Joe goes back to the bar and meets up with Beck. I had to put this here because it just cuts to Joe and Beck already talking. It just doesn't show him going back into the bar. So, yeah. Beck says, are you staring at my lipstick? And Joe says, no, it's just different. Beck says, I wanted to try something new. But it's not really me. Joe says, why did you call me here? And Beck says, I don't know. Spontaneous impulse. In his head, Joe says, it's okay. You'll learn. You can tell me anything. Joe says, we cut it short last time because a friend of yours was missing, right? Beck says, oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. He's fine. He's just an idiot. In his head, Joe says, agree with you there, but you want to keep it light. I can do that. Joe says, okay, this couple here coming in at the door, you think it's their first date? And Beck says, third. She's not sure she wants to seal the deal. And those two, Joe says, where? And Beck says, there. Brink of divorce. Joe says, that's cold, okay? And Beck says, oh. Joe says, that's us in 30 years. And so Joe says, and that was way too much. And Beck says, I love that. Wow, you're in super good shape for an old guy. And Joe says, thank you. If you were as hot as ever, but in a dignified, age appropriate way. Joe says, it's all with the yoga. It keeps me young. To be honest, I'm so happy that you could come. It's been the worst day. My thesis advisor, he made a pass at me. Joe says, what, you're kidding? Joe says, what? You're kidding. Beck says, the most embarrassing part is, I thought he believed in me and my work. Joe says, so this isn't your fault. Beck says, dumb stuff like this happens all the time. Starting to think I'm some sort of kind of magnet for dudes with serious issues. Joe says, what are you going to do about your thesis advisor? Beck says, I don't know. Get through it. Joe says, I believe in you. Beck says, hey, do you want to come with me to a party with me tomorrow? In his head, Joe says, already booking our next date. Beck says, it's that friend, Peach Salinger. Joe says, like J.D. Salinger? Beck says, yeah. Joe says, whoa. And Beck says, but she doesn't like to talk about it. She's a sweetheart, but her family's just a little. Joe says, those isn't Beck. Beck says, I like to, whose isn't? And Beck says, I like your drink better. At the bookstore, Ethan says, "Give us thanks for our Lord Stephen King, who bestoweth books that our bookstore in the third dimensional location may live." Paco says, "It's cool how you get in Monster's POV. You understand why he does stuff like it's almost like Joseph's justified." And Paco says, "Yeah, that's kind of weird because he's bad, but he's not all bad." And as Joe says, "Quick Twitter break from Benji." Paco says, "I mean, Dr. Frankenstein's a bad one for making him, right?" And Joe says, "Well, I think it's open for interpretation." Ethan says, let's do it. Let's release the Kraken." And it opens the door to all the Stephen King people. Joe says, "Thank you so much for receiving the book. But we need another box, Ethan. Could you watch the register for a second?" Ethan says, "Kid ran down to the basement to get it." Joe says, "What? No." And Ethan says, "Yeah, I saw him grab her key." Panicking Joe says, "Paco, in the bookstore basement." Paco's going down the stairs before being stopped by Joe. Paco says, "What did I say?" Paco says, "I'm sorry." And Joe says, "I told you not to come down here." Paco says, "Well, I just wanted to grab a book." And Joe says, "Don't be an idiot. Why would you do that?" "Why?" Paco says, "I'm sorry." Then Paco leaves to go back upstairs. At Beck's apartment, Beck is looking at Benji or Joe's post. Well, Pete says, "What happened between you and Mr. Virginia Lips?" Pete says, well, let's just say I better find a better job or some kind of housing. I don't know." Pete says, "Okay, enough of this." Beck says, "Peach, I can't accept this." Peach says, "Stop. Look, it's just the first, last, and a deposit, okay? Don't be so noble, okay? Just take the check and stop stressing here." In the bookstore basement, Joe gives Benji some drink. Benji says, if you want to kill me, then what are you waiting for?" And instead Joe says, "Why would I want to kill him? Who would want to kill people?" Knowing Joe, I'm just not gonna answer that with a. Joe says, three cups. One is your home brand soda. Is the best, right? So prove. It's the best, right? So prove it. Tell me which one it is. Benji says, "If I get this right, I get a fix." Joe says, "If you get this right, I'll let you out." Benji says, "Take the first cup." Benji says, "I need a palate cleanser." Benji takes the first cup. After he's done, he says, "I need a palate cleanser." Joe says, "Cup 2. Benji takes the second cup, and Joe says 3, so Benji takes the third cup. Joe says 1 or 2 or 3. Benji says, "I don't know." So Joe leaves them in there. Benji says, "Okay, none of them, okay? They taste like stale, cheap drugstore sodas. They're not mine." Joe says, "But that's where you're wrong. They're all yours." Benji says, That's some crap. That's some bull." And Joe says, "Homestead is obvious. Is obviously." Benji says, "Let me out of here. Let me out of here, you psychopath." "Fine. You win. I lose." Joe says, "We all lose because what I'm about to do with his lame sack of crap." Beck and Benji says, "You want Beck, right? Let's be clear. She does not want to be with a guy like you. I can help you." Joe says, "No, exactly. No, actually, she invited me to the party tonight to Peach Salinger." Benji says, "A Salinger party?" "Joe, she's just taking you to add texture. She doesn't want to seem, she wants to seem interesting, like she hangs out with real folk. She's deep. She's an artist. Truth, Beck will leave someone like you for someone who can take her places. We never made it to a single party because she couldn't jump on me fast enough. She's playing you for a chump, my friend." At Peach's house, Joe and Beck get a taxi. Beck says, "Oh yeah, it's really bad because basically food poisoning is the only reason Peach and I are friends. Puke does bond you." In a flashback, Benji says, "Do you know she knows to show her ladle? She got this red kitchen ladle. It's a whole call. I'll call you daddy, spank me thing. She's kinky, like me. Because I'm not loaded like you, because you who you are." Beck is so hopefully gastrointestinal happen. Yeah, because you are not who you are. Beck says, "So hopefully nothing gastrointestinal happens. But I do hope you guys like each other. Benji said in a flashback, Benji said, you want to change that. You need me, Joe. And in present, back in Joe goes into his house. His head says, one look and I can tell you not my crowd. What you are is everything Benji claimed you want to be. Peach said, Beckalicious. Hi. Is this Joseph? And Joe says, Joe. And instead Joe says, am I texture here, Beck? Peach says, now Joseph. And Joe says, just Joe. And Peach says, I'm gonna have to borrow your friend. Here, so make yourself home. Everyone is friendly. Brown people don't bite. Oh my. Where did you go? And Joe says, I didn't. And Peach says, come on now. And Beck now, I'm sorry. Joe walks up seeing Anika and Lynn. And his head says, Anika add water. With rich and hashtag carefree, building a brand as a body positive influencer who seems to involve wearing a lot of free stuff on Instagram. Lynn Laser, publicist, hashtag cocktail lover, daughter of a surgeon and a tech CEO, and adopted. All the smugness known to none to the angst. Joe sends another text as Benji, and Joe takes Ozma of Oz, the prequel to The Wizard of Oz, from Peach's library. And he starts reading it. In a flashback, a teen Joe is reading a book when Mr. Mooney says, you have a full set. Each one of them is worth 3 times as much as for a collector. You read that one, just the first one, typical. Mr. Mooney then slaps the nonsense out of Teen Joe and says, you think I need some illiterate working in my shop? Mr. Mooney then locks Teen Joe in the cage, and Teen Joe says, hey, Mr. Mooney. Mr. Mooney says, if you want to work in this shop, you have to learn the value of the books. Teen Joe says, Mr. Mooney, please. And Mr. Mooney says, everything you need is in here. And Mr. Mooney says, let me out. Teen Joe says, let me out. In the present, Peach says, Joseph, there you are. And Joe says, it's Joe. Just Joe. This is a lovely collection, Peaches. And Peach says, it's just Peach. That's just so funny. That is funny that when she calls him a nickname, he corrects her. And then when he does it, she corrects him. This rivalry, this started of a beautiful rivalry between the two. I mean, you probably got read more of these books than I have. I have a good salesman a good salesman has to know his products, right? So you met Beck at a bookshop, right? Joe says, that's right. Only in New York. And then you happen to meet her again. And his head Joe says, casual tone, detective eye. And Joe says, it's lucky we did. She was on the tracks at the time. Pete says, so I heard. Thank goodness you were there. I mean, being in the Greenpoint of all places at the very right moment, it's time for the toast. And his head, Joe says, in the time I was in there, you attract Benji 2.0. And Peach looks thrilled. Are you thrilled? What do you want? And Joe goes upstairs in his head. He says, so which Beck are you? The one I see or the one Benji does? Beck says, I don't know. I thought it would be fun. Beck says, hey stranger, how are you holding up? Having fun? Joe says, Beck, why did you bring me here? And Beck says, I don't know. I thought it would be fun. Joe says, I don't think I have a lot of common with your other friend. And Beck says, I like that about you. I always think that I'm going to love these things that I never do. Joe says, then why did you come? Why did we come? Beck says, this has always been the way since Brown. I feel like I'm getting sucked in and I could just be me, yet I'm somehow don't know about that. But I mean, yet somehow I never feel quite good. I stole this dress to feel it. Which is pathetic. Joe says, I don't know about that. And Beck says, not as pathetic as the fact that Peach wrote me a check to keep me afloat, which I don't want to cash, but now I have to. Joe says, look, if you're not the one of them, it's because stuff like this doesn't get handed down to you. Beck says, it didn't, and Joe says, you're right. And it sometimes feels like you can sometimes survive, you have to show some teeth. I'm guessing that yours are pretty sharp. Beck says, I'm glad we met. I'm glad we're friends. And instead of kissing Joe, she just leans, puts her head on his shoulder. And Joe says, for the love of Christ. Like, literally, this dude just wants this girl to kiss him. And not say that they're friends. Joe and Beck are about to leave when they're stopped by Maggie Johnson, a friend of Joe's ex-Candace's. And instead, Joe says, great, a little soon for you to hear this, Beck, but here we go. Joe says, wow, Maddie, that's crazy. It's so good to see you. This is Beck, and Maddie says, so I heard about you and Candace. And Joe says, yeah, I know. I thought we were pretty happy, but she thought she'd be happy with some guy in Rome. I get it. I get it. She's following her blood. And Maddie says, it's just weird how she just left so suddenly. I mean, we were all kind of hurt. Beck says, well, excuse us. My Uber's here, nice to meet you. Joe says, well, it was good to see you, Maddie. Outside, Beck says, I just felt like we needed to be over. We just need to get that over with. And Joe says, let's get you home. At Joe's apartment, Ron and Claudia are fighting once again. Because it's kind of funny that Ron was, that Joe says, I'm sorry, Paco. Paco says it's okay. Joe says it's not okay to yell. Paco says grown-ups do it all the time, and Joe says grown-ups are a-holes. Some people are used to yell at me too, and I don't want to be like that. I got you something. Joe says gives the book that he stole from Peach's house. That he stole from Peach to Paco. Yeah, we knew he stole that book. When they showed that shot of the bookshelf with that missing book, we knew that Joe stole it. Paco says, I can't take this inside. Ron. And Joe says, so the bathrooms in the building have some kind of ceiling. So go into the bathroom, the ceiling tiles around the vent. Move the ceiling tiles around the vent. And if you push them, so if you push one and pop the book in there and slide it closed. Paco says it's like a secret hiding place. Thank you. Joe says, have a good night, pal. And if you want it, it's here. Basically, I guess he's talking about his food that he still has. In his apartment, in his head, Joe says, you are not responsible for my feelings, but I am. For the record, I feel like a congealed day-old egg roll right now. What was the point of... What's the point of taking me to that party? Benji was right. Wait a minute. Benji. Yeah, Joe totally forgot about Benji. So he has to run all the way to the bookstore basement, and he sees Benji going crazy, having ripped out all the books. In his head, Joe says, honestly, I could feel... Benji says, you left me here to die. You left me here to die. Enough of this. Just kill me. At the MFA, Beck goes to visit Professor Leahy. Beck says, hi, I want to talk. I want to ask you to please reconsider I need my TA job. I need housing. Can we please discuss placing me with another advisor? Paul says, yeah, it's in the middle of the term. And Beck says, I know, inconvenient, but it's important. Paul says, I wish you the best, but I really can't in good conscience do that. Beck says, I understand. So, I'm guessing I realize I have no choice but to share this. Paul says, and that is? And Beck says, well, it could fit into one tweet. At least 6 women who have a story about you, not hard to find. Not hard to find. Didn't take much asking around what in terms of harassment and misconduct anyway. They were too scared to come forward. But then we realized it's hard to dismiss 7 women with the same story. Paul says that's not possible. I've done nothing inappropriate. You want to make yourself a public liar that actually would actually sink your career. Blackmail is not something you live down. And Beck says, you're trying to call my bluff, but I'm not bluffing. I'm glad you're back. In bookstore basement, Benji says, I've had a lot of time thinking here, and you were right. I am a fraud. I've done nothing worse than I've done anything worse than you, and that's how I know you're not a killer. I'm gonna tell you something, and once I tell you, I'll know your worst secret and you'll know mine. And then you can let me go. Then we cut to Joe watching a video of Benji. In his head, Joe says, I'll have an interesting thing in Benji's nightstand. But he was right. In his thumb drive, it's by far the most interesting. It started out as your standard issue front hazing, but a certain intensity kicked in. Blame the coke. Or the homophobia. They all stood there laughing. Benji was the worst, because he stood there holding the camera. Their parents made it go away, but Benji kept a copy of the video. I assumed they'll hold it over friend's head, but instead, I get to hold it over Benji. And he doesn't deserve it, but he has right to enough to buy his freedom. Yeah, Benji killed a guy, and not killed a guy while drunk. Pushed the guy into an ocean, pushed the guy into a pool, and then let him drown. Benji tried to save the guy, but then by that it was too late. So yeah. Benji murdered someone. At the bookstore, in his head, Joe says, I could have changed the subject on that balcony. Tried to kiss you sooner. It's not fair how it is to kill a spark. It's a miracle love ever happens. If it's not a myth. Beck says, hi. Thanks to you, I showed my professor some tea. Joe says, and what's that, Beck? Beck says, thank you. You were right. I have housing, and I can rip Peach's checkup, and generally love to fight another day. I wouldn't have had the guts if you hadn't have I wouldn't have if you hadn't so really, thank you. In his head, Joe says, all I want to do is help Beck. Beck says, you saw something in me. God, not everyone gets why I'm here, and what being a writer means. It's the most. I mean, it's the only important thing. You have ever helped me. Not to believe it. Aren't you gonna look to see if I guessed right? Guess right flavor. No BS. Classic, even old school, secretly better than all those crazies trying to hard ones. In his head, Joe says, it's nice to be seen. I guess it's good that we're finally. Joe and Beck kiss. Joe says, coming back again. And then they come back here. And then they kiss again. So plain grazed a yes, noted. I have to go to class. Joe says, have a good class, Beck. Beck leaves. In the bookstore basement, Benji says, did you get the video? Joe says, I got the video. Benji says, gives Benji a maple latte, almond, 2 stevia. Did I get that right? Benji says, right, yeah. I saw the video. Benji says, yes, of the mutually assured destruction. Joe says, let's talk about something. First, what he said about Beck basically being a gold digger. Benji says, I was being honest. Joe says, where he was wrong. I go far as to say, you create the problem. When you were in this stuff. When you treat her like trash. You cast her in a role that isn't her. And you trap her in. Benji says, I'm done with her. And Joe says, say I can trust you. I've got the video right here. I mean, I'm maybe a solid. Maybe. But thing is that I didn't make up for the damage you've done. Benji says, I'm sorry. And Joe says, between you and me, Benji, I would honestly roll the dice. Like you said, I'm not a killer. But this isn't about her. Benji says, I'm telling you. And Joe says, I'm scared. I'm scared of what you might do to her. Benji then drops the coffee and gasps for air. Joe says, maple latte, 2 almond, maple latte almond, 2 stevia, and 2 tablespoons of peanut oil. Benji then starts to have an allergic reaction. In his head, Joe says this could have gone either way. He learns about so many things. Who knew the peanut allergy was real? Joe then in his apartment, Joe hides Benji's phone in his ceiling vent, saying, I guess Benji's gonna die an honest man. Then they basically just showed Benji's dead body, which is like, I guess it's to show that he's actually dead. And as Joe closes the ceiling duct, ending the episode. And Joe puts Benji's phone into the ceiling duct and closes it, ending the episode. So, wow. This was a really good episode. Even though Beck's thesis advisor was a terrible person, and I'm glad we never see him again after this episode, I guess Beck goes with another advisor, because we know we never see Leahy again. So yeah. Since the show will be taking place, since the show it basically takes me a long time to produce, to basically write the scripts and then put it out. I'll have to put another show for my weeklies until this show comes out. Probably thinking like Good Luck Charlie or Liv and Maddie type reviews until I'm done this show. So yeah, watch out for those. Watch out for my watch for my childhood Disney era shows that I watched, like I did with the Thundermans but yeah. And so yeah. So yeah, just saying, because this show takes this show takes so long to write into a script format that I might have to put another show in here just to fill that void, just to fill the void of this show until I get it done, until I get the show done, until I get the episodes done. So yeah, watch out for the next video, which might be a Good Luck Charlie video or a Liv and Maddie video. Might be a Good Luck Charlie video because I really want to do that show. I love that show as a kid, but still, might be a Good Luck Charlie video because I want to do that, and I'll be doing that show while doing the scripts for you. And then on Saturdays, I'll be doing the You scripts, reviewing You. So I'll be basically doing 2 shows back to back, but on 2 different days. So, yeah. But anyway, that's it for this video. And I'll see you next time for the Good Luck Charlie video in the weeks coming. But, yeah. But see you next Saturday for Season 1, Episode 3, maybe, of You.